Good morning, good afternoon, or evening, whichever you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Truck Around and Find Out podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Byers, the owner of Front Range Compliance and DOT University, where we kind of work with you on staying off the radar, trying to keep your program up and running, keep your fleet moving forward, and try to keep the feds or the state out of your office the best we possibly can. Also joining with me, I've got Redbeard at the helm. He is running the controls and joining me on the podcast. Keith, we did not get you for this today. We needed to get the recording done, and we never got our scheduling put together, so we'll get you on that next one. But I had some topics that I kind of wanted to get together. Had a fun weekend. Luke, how was your weekend?
It was great. It was very busy, but it was great.
Started off really great. We kind of started our weekend a little bit early as we came into Friday. I was out last week for some training. I was working with a company in Nashville, and I needed to get out and back. I was doing a training that was it was a 3-part training that I've been doing for this company all over the nation. It was kind of a mix of some cargo securement, some hours of service, and some CDL determination stuff. And I've been working with this particular company, training at all their different locations. Well, they wanted to do this class out in Nashville. So I decided, given the amount of flights that we have going between Denver and Nashville, I was like, okay, I can knock this out in one day. But no matter what, I had to be back for Friday. So the training was on Thursday. I had a pretty big week leading up to Thursday. So I left early, like 5 o'clock in the morning, and the plane was leaving at 5 in the morning. I got out to Nashville, went and did my class, met with the company, and then I showed up at the airport when I was leaving, and so we could get back to this big event that we had. It was the Maverick. It was the Colorado Youth Outdoors put on the Maverick, which is a great big huge charity sporting clay event, and we've been very, very excited. We Front Range Compliance, we sponsored a team there and a little sponsorship just to help the organization out. So I just had to be back for that. The company wanted me to stay, but I booked that one-day flight, and by the time I got to the airport Thursday afternoon, I hadn't checked my flight except for when I checked in last, and all was good. And I showed up there, and as I opened up the app to pull out my ticket so I could go through security, because I wanted to make sure I got TSA pre-pass, because they love every once in a while just to slip that in there with not getting the pass. So I was like, okay, I got to make sure I got my TSA. And as soon as I opened the app, it was all in red, and it said, "We regret to inform you that we had to make changes to your flight." No. And I was just glancing. I was like, oh, please tell me. Please look at the date. Look at the date. It's got to be today's date. The 30th. It's got to be the 30th. And it was. But my flight was really only delayed. Well, then another delay happened, and another delay happened. I ended up 3 hours delay, and you want to talk about panic mode setting in? I was already exhausted from that long day, and I was like, I'm not going to make it back. I was thinking to the TV or the old movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I'm like, well, the plane side is failing me now, so time for the shooting for the train or the automobile. What kind of sports cars do we have? And I'm going to need a radar detector. I was like, what am I going to do to make it back? Well, I finally got back about 11:30 that night, so I could get up early and we could head to the Maverick. And so we did this Maverick, the sporting of clay. It's a really superb event. Keith, I wish he'd be here. Maybe we'll bring it up next time when he's in here also, just get his take on it. Keith introduced me to it last year, invited me into my first Maverick. I fell in love. As soon as I went to it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is spectacular. I got on the list. I was able to sign up early enough that I was able to sponsor a team this year. And we'll have a team there also in 2027, and I can't wait for it. It's kind of like Christmas. It's one of those things that I think that you're going to wait all year for, and they put on an event. Colorado Youth Outdoors, shout out to you. Phenomenal charity organization, wonderful with all the young kids learning the outdoor recreational activities and that. But this sporting clay event that they held at the Sylvandale Ranch is set in mountain scenery up through a canyon in this event. And it's spectacular.
It was.
I mean, is there a better word to describe it, Luke?
Not one that I know. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. The canyon, each location, each station that we were shooting at, it was just beautiful and perfect. I really can't ask for more.
Yeah, so they set this up, and it's got all the different stations. So it's 100 points, to shoot to go up through. Some of them, they're all true pairs. That was the one thing we kind of went out and practiced just a little bit because we didn't want to embarrass ourselves. So we did a little bit of practice before we go, and we practiced everything with doubles, a report double, which is going to be as soon as you shoot, then the next pigeon flies. But these were all true pairs, meaning they both launch at the exact same time, which, to be honest with you, I think makes it a little bit more challenging.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And some of these courses were set up to where, I mean, they were tough. Like, there was a lot of swing to get from one to the other. There was a couple rounds that I struggled to find the second pigeon by the time we got to it. So, it was like, where's it at? Where's it at? Yeah, it was absolutely a true challenge. Kudos to the team that won on Friday with us. It was the Bluffs. I don't know if we should boo or say, yay, good job.
A little bit of both.
Other than that, it is my goal in life to beat them next year, especially since I heard that they've won it 2 years in a row now.
Have they really?
Well, I don't know. They were saying something at the event that they have a history of winning it. And I'm like, okay, we got to put front range compliance. And if Keith was here, I'm sure he'd be like, no, Rush Peterbilt. So Keith also sponsored a team. Well, with Rush Peterbilt, they sponsored a team. And Keith was kind of the leader of that little group. So though we were on different teams, we got in the same shooting group together. So we started off mid-course, and we were kind of hanging out with the same event and the same folks. And it was pretty spectacular event. I think kind of up there. I mean, I asked you earlier, Luke, what are some of the things that really stood out to you for the event? What are some things that you can just recall that are just tops for you?
Everything was awesome. I mean, just to say the least. I think some of the stations, like there was one station where we're shooting up into a cliffside of the canyon, and you just hear the echo of the shots. I mean, it was just phenomenal. I mean, I was so just impressed with that whole course. But going through, I mean, we had different events. There was the pistol tent where we each got 15 rounds in a 9mm pistol, and I think we shot the best out of any team that was there. I'm not going to lie. We absolutely killed that course. But everything else, I kind of embarrassed myself a little bit on some of those, but it was just so much fun. But I think the one that really stood out to me the most was the Try Me tent. And I mean, talk about being a little kid in a candy shop. I mean, you could go in there. There's probably 8 different kinds of shotgun brands. And I mean, manufacturers were there, so you could ask questions, and you could literally just walk up, take something off the rack, walk about 20 feet, and go try shooting it. And I mean, that was absolutely spectacular.
Speaking of the Try Me tent, Mike went with us. My son-in-law, I took him. He's an excellent shooter, so I was like, I got to have my son-in-law on my team, because our goal is to get up in the top, and it wasn't my team members that dragged me down. I hate to say it, but I need to improve my shooting.
Me too.
My shooting. We need more practice. So good excuse to go and do that. But Mike, we walked out of the Try Me tent, and I talked to him like 3 days later on Sunday. I guess that's not 3 days, but a good 2.5 days later, and gosh, he was still talking about it last night when we were all together as a family. It's like every time we had a little break, we were still visiting about it. Now, Mike, if you're listening to this, I'm not razzing you. I'm very glad you were excited about everything we saw in there. But even Natalie told me the next day, she goes, Dad, he won't stop talking about it.
He wants to buy another gun.
Yeah. So at the Try Me tent, they had a little bit of everything. And what Mike discovered was they also had some things that weren't necessarily on display. There was kind of once you got to know the manufacturers and get to talking to them, there was some things that came out of some special cases that were also available to shoot. So, yeah, Mike was out there shooting some $20,000 shotguns and telling me about how great that was. And by that time, I had put the guns away and I had made it to the beer tent. And I was like, I'm just having a beer. Once you touch the alcohol, it's no returning to the firearms course.
You're done shooting.
Yeah, we kind of lost Mike for a little while.
We
there.
did. Yep. He spent a good hour and a half in that training tent.
I think he shot everything they had.
He did.
I was like, after 100 rounds and shooting, I was like, yeah, my shoulder's done. I'm not going to take any more shotgun kicks to the shoulder. No. I think he shot every one that he grabbed at least 10 more times.
Yes, he did.
Good for you. Good for you, Mike. So impressed. But yes, he's super, super excited. I would imagine that he's already saving up for one of them next things. He was pretty impressed. He sounds like he was really impressed with the Beretta, whatever the Beretta guys had to offer, that kind of thing. But I think for me, some of the biggest thing, first off, the camaraderie of the event. I mean, everybody was spectacular, from the volunteers, from having to deal with all the different personalities from all the different teams that are there. There's 4 teams in each volley, each round that comes through there. And, they have to give their instructions, and people have to listen, people have to be patient. And we were on one, and I was so impressed with it because the thrower malfunctioned, and it just started throwing just broken pigeons. And they got on the radio, and I mean, it was like the cavalry. Like here they come. They're on their side by sides. I think even a pickup came flying up. There were
2 pickups. Yep, right behind the side by sides.
And I mean, they were there. And obviously, because we did come, we saw some bottlenecks, and it was like some people were definitely quicker than others and stuff like that. But yeah, it was very well thought out, very well planned. Kudos to all the volunteers, because they basically do that for 3 days. So they've got the Friday event, and that doesn't include all the setup preparations.
Nope.
They've got the Saturday event, which is a more upscale than the Friday event. So haven't had the pleasure of going to a Saturday event, but we'll work on that.
We'll get there.
And then they had, I think on Sunday, I think they do a little volunteer wrap up where they kind of go do some stuff like that. But the Sylvandale Ranch, they host a lot of events like weddings, and they got a dude ranch up there, just some stuff like that. But I've heard, and there was no evidence of clays, like they literally just set this up for that one weekend. But I've heard the cleanup, they literally pick up all the clay pigeons and everything else. And you've seen some of those areas, they were littered with the broken clay pigeons.
Cow.
But yeah, they destroy, they everything is gone, and they pick every piece up. So
that is impressive.
I think one of the highlights for me, Luke, was when we were shooting out over the pond.
Yep.
You had the ducks in the pond.
I forgot about the ducks.
The ducks. So we're literally shooting. They're throwing the pigeons, and these pigeons were kind of coming toward us, and they were flying over the water. Well, in the water, there were 2 ducks, a mallard and a drake, just enjoying life, and they would swim out and right underneath where we were all shooting, and they were kind of ducking their head. It was like they were kind of had it like hunched down, and they'd swim out, and then they'd swim back over, and they just and when we came by several hours later, they were still sitting in that pond, just enjoying life. They knew they were perfectly safe in their little habitat.
Yeah,
but
that was pretty awesome.
I was like, oh my gosh, those ducks are cracking me up. Every time I've been out duck hunting, you even remotely step foot near the water, and they fly and scatter everywhere. But yeah, these 2 ducks were very happy in their little environment,
unbothered by everything going on.
Totally unbothered. So we had the Maverick, pretty awesome setup. Good job. Colorado Youth Outdoors absolutely did a good job. Now you tried out, I can't remember, did you just mention it? You tried out a specific shotgun there.
I did. Yep. They had a rack of 5 different suppressed shotguns, and I had to try one of those out. And man, you look at these things and they look like they came out of a sci-fi movie from the early 80s.
One of your gamer movies too, or gamer game, that you like to shoot on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there was one that had a set of spikes on the front. And I saw that. They were just ridiculous looking. But man, I tell you what, shooting a suppressed shotgun was pretty darn cool.
Was it heavy on the barrel end? Because I mean, let's be honest, that suppressor on that shotgun was big, and it was quiet. I pulled my earplug out when you were shooting because I just wanted to hear, like, they're supposed to be hearing safe, and it was just a whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not loud
No,
at all.
there was no pop to the ear or anything with that suppressor. But, you know, I was worried that it was going to be really front heavy, and it wasn't at all. I mean, it felt like an extra 2 pounds on the shotgun, which seems like a lot, but when you shoulder it, barely even noticed the difference.
I wonder if they balance it back, like they put a little bit more weight back in the stock and the action, just to kind of help balance that front. I don't know. And that was Phoenix Armament or Phoenix Firearms?
Phoenix Firearms, Phoenix Armory. It's they're based out of Berthoud here.
Yeah, we've been to their plant.
We have, and they've got some really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, I was looking for a gunsmith once, and I couldn't find one. Terrible interaction with the gunsmith at one of the local shops. I don't want to throw them under the bus because it was him, but he literally tampered with my firearm and then tried to play dumb. And yeah, it was ugly situation. So I took my firearm to Phoenix because they had a gunsmith, and I dropped it off there. Well, they were the coolest bunch of folks.
They
like,
were.
Literally, he's like, "Oh, well, you want a tour of our factory?"
Yep, we went and checked out their whole.
They gave us a complete walkthrough, like unannounced. Their workers are just very friendly, like, "Oh, hey, check it out." Yeah, and they had all the CNC machines like going. They're making stuff, and it was pretty darn cool.
It was awesome. Yeah, that was really cool.
I don't know if they still do that out there, but that was pretty darn cool. And their showroom with all their gear, and they make some wild looking stuff. So you were talking about your shotgun had the spikes and stuff on the front. I remember when we did the tour, they had some pretty wild looking, like Mad Max looking stuff.
Yeah, very
back from
Mad
the day,
Max.
You know,
very Mad Max.
Very interesting stuff. So definitely liked that. So the Maverick, and yeah, I'd love to get Keith on here so we can kind of talk about his stuff. Hopefully, not hopefully, we're guaranteed we got a spot for next year, and we're going to be practicing.
Yes, we are. We're coming for the bluffs.
The bluffs, yeah. Let's hope. Let's just try to get up in the top half, and then that'll give us an excuse for the next year, right?
That's right.
So we can keep doing this. So yeah, we definitely want to make it up toward the top. Winning it would be super, super cool, but yeah, it's going to take a little bit of practice because that is one tough course.
Yes, it was.
All right, let's just talk about a little training update. So things that have been going on here at DOT University. We're doing some upgrades. So right now we got our studio set up at my conference room table in my office out here in Loveland, Colorado. And it works, but I like having my conference room, my table available. So when I got people to stop by the office, a place that we can sit down and visit about, programs, whatever, a little bit more comfortably. So I kind of want to get all the recording stuff out of here. I want to move it upstairs. We have a corner of our classroom. I call it the dark corner because it's just, I don't know, it's just harder to sit in and that kind of thing. And nobody ever sits in that corner. So I was like, we got tables there, and our tables are pretty cool. They can just, the way they fold up, we can get them out of the way real nice because they kind of stand up and they're still on wheels. So we can kind of move them around to adjust, which is super, super cool. But I kind of want to make that. So I've been talking to Luke about making that our new training area. So we're getting the new studio set up, and it's going to be updated. Our goal is in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm saying 2 to 3. You said 2 when we were kind of talking about this before we started recording. And I was like, yeah, but we still got to wait. I know that table, they gave us a long window on the delivery. So we're kind of doing like not a full horseshoe, but kind of a partial horseshoe curved table so that we can kind of sit around and engage in conversation. But the whole purpose of this is so that we can have conversation and we can actually talk to each other. Currently, the way we're recording at the conference room table is, Keith and I are trying to talk to each other, but it's difficult. It's uncomfortable and still get it on the mic. But the whole purpose we're doing this is we want to go on YouTube with the podcast, get it to where we're getting a little bit more interaction, do some of the updates, and get a lot more material, and hopefully some followers can get you all out there. So we're going to be working on that. So that is, I guess I said DOT University or training update, and I jumped into the studio, but that's going to be for TAFO, but also for DOT University YouTube, because we're also going to be updating our video corner for our backdrop and basically our studio for recording our DOTU videos. I would really like to get back into doing our YouTube released videos on that, as well as doing the recorded truck around and find out the podcast. But for the training update for DOTU, Luke, you just got through working on our new updated course. You want to talk about that a little bit?
We finally got the new reasonable suspicion testing for supervisors training updated, and it is live on DOT University. It's updated with the new 2025 clearinghouse, all their findings. I mean, well, we initially put that training out in 2021, I believe.
I was going to say, it's not like our old training was out of date.
No.
But it was updated.
Yep.
And it was we also kind of had it to where it was a little bit of a live class from some webinars that we did for DOTU and some studio style recording.
Yep.
So now it's all the webinar stuff. We
Yep.
reshot, we redid the whole thing. And I would say the way that I teach the class on some of the topics has changed.
Very much
and
so.
it's even updated from our current. So, or from 2021, 2022 when we originally shot the original. So nice update on that.
Very nice.
I know one of the things that we did, because I've really been trying to hit and harp on this in my trainings for a reasonable suspicion, is first off to look at the change in how many active duty tests that come back positive. Like when we're talking about, look, when you look at the number of post-crash tests versus the number of random testing, and then when you compare that to the reasonable suspicion, there's a huge break in the system. Like I would say the system is broken and something's not working, and that is straight up when it comes to controlled substance testing. We as an industry are failing. We are missing the circumstances, because the script totally flips when it's alcohol. And alcohol is a lot easier because it's right up in your face, that kind of thing.
Everybody knows what it's like to have a drink or be under the influence of alcohol, but those signs are a lot harder to spot when it's marijuana or the pills or meth. I mean, those types of things. I mean, people aren't around it as much, so it's a lot harder for people to look at and say, oh, I can recognize exactly what that person's on,
Well, and they don't recognize the chronic or withdrawn. I really try to harp that it's not like, back when I was in my DUI patrol days, I had to have reasonable suspicion to stop the car and ask somebody to step out of the car. I had to have suspicion to do my DUI investigation. I had to have probable cause to stop somebody, meaning I had a legal reason to pull you over. But I had to have suspicion in order to take that next step to the roadside maneuvers. To arrest somebody, I had to have probable cause. I had to have a reason, and that's what we would do. And I think a lot of people look at their reasonable suspicion today, and they're looking at it the same way, that they have to have probable cause to make an arrest. And I know that's not what you're doing, but they definitely feel like they need to have more, because what we're missing is that chronic, that long-term effects. Alcohol's right up in your face. And in fact, we have the rules that the alcohol use has to be surrounding safety sensitive duties, where drugs it's illegal anytime. So if somebody smoked a week ago or used drugs a week ago or 2 weeks ago, or if they've been doing it over time, I think people think that they've got to be high right smack dab in front of you. So they look at the videos where people are high, and they're like, oh, that's what I expect to see. My video of the lady at Walmart. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great video to see. And I tell everybody, I'm like, look, you're going to not deal with this at Walmart. This is a situation where you bump into your employee at Walmart and you're talking to them on Monday saying, hey, we got to talk about this. Okay. Hopefully they're not still high on whatever they were on this video. But the biggest part is not necessarily seeing somebody acting that way, looking at how that individual looks in that video. She may be acting totally normal or maybe a little strung out come Monday, but looking at how that body is breaking down and recognizing the effects, or looking at a long-term situation where problematic, an employee went from being a rock star to being a problematic employee, and they're having all these different interactions and complaints, and their work is dropping, that, hey, maybe it's time to do a drug test on them. We're going to base it off of this. We're not just basing it on the fact that they had a bad day at the office. We're basing it on the score of a bunch of things that have happened. So I really try to focus on that. And then the other big focus is my marijuana update. And I kind of set into that because I already had a little bit in there about the weed, because it's such a big part of this industry that is affecting trucking right now. Because, it is the number one tested substance.
By far,
So I tried to do a little update to weed. When I say
it's a big update.
I don't know if I got carried away, but I got really into it. Part of it was because I was researching all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, well, look at this. Well, they got it this way. And so I started doing a lot more research. And when I say research, I don't mean that I was partaking in the 420. I mean, I was using the websites. I was looking at things like High Time Magazine, looking at everything we've got, just seeing what's out there, because the industry is making these products to use them right in front of you and completely conceal it. And we're missing it. We're missing these individuals that are dosing with their marijuana. And we're going to have a marijuana episode here on Truck Around and Find Out. Okay. Yeah, we're going to do that. Got to get it planned out, figure out the right way to go about it. Maybe we can get us a volunteer to come in and jump on the mic and do the yeah, dude thing. Okay, that kind of thing. But I doubt we can do that. But my insurance company is going to cancel me. So anyways, all right. So that's what's up. That's what's new for DOT University. New class online. Don't wait to hold a class. You know, when you hire a supervisor, we've got a course. And you can go to my KK Cheller, competitor. I don't want to say their real name, KK Cheller. I thought that was pretty.
That was pretty.
I thought that's pretty classic right there. I'm going to call them that from now on. Don't go to KK Cheller. Come to a local small business. They're a multi-billion-dollar organization. Besides that, when you do call them, all they want to sell you is truckloads of paperwork. We're not like that. But anyways, it looks like you had something you want to throw in there.
One more thing I wanted to say about the new RST is, I think a really big problem, because if you go through and take this training, we show the data, and I think one of the big things, and you talk about it in the training, is the fear of being wrong.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to the supervisors who are scared to put their employees through the reasonable suspicion test, is I think they're so scared of being wrong and facing the repercussions of that, even though they're pretty minuscule. I mean, I think you just have to get trained. You have to know what these substances do to your employees, and you have to learn how to recognize it, because you're just putting yourself in some hot water. If you're
more jeopardy, yeah.
Yep. If you're choosing to be oblivious to it and ignorant, it's hot water that you're putting yourself in. So get trained, go through this training. Even if you find somewhere else to go do it, it is so important to know what these substances do and how they affect your employees. So that's all I wanted to say about
100%, 100%. And I'm glad you said that, Luke, because I actually filled a lot of those phone calls. Supervisors, y'all tend to work against each other in this situation, where I got one supervisor in the office talking to guys. Second supervisor steps out and literally calls me in panic going, they're going to get us sued. There's nothing wrong with this person. I'm like, dude, they don't have to be high right in front of you, okay? And I mean, I can't think of a time where we've had a reasonable suspicion come back negative. One of our tests that we've done in our program, and trust me, we've done a lot of tests.
Done a lot.
So, the problem is, first off, follow that intuition. The second is your observations. You're basing them on facts. Contemporaneous means that they're right in front of you right now. And I don't mean high in front of you right now. Those facts could have been like, hey, this has been going on for a month, whatever these behaviors are. We've got to go through the train to get into the nitty gritty of it. Contemporaneous means today I decide I'm going to go talk to this employee, and those same personality traits, those same behaviors are right now today in front of me. You're going to base it contemporaneous. But let's say you make up the decision and say, hey, I'm going to go talk to this person today, and you do that, and it's like the person has turned over a new leaf. You walk in, they got a smile on their face, they're gung-ho, they're working, great attitude. Well, today's not the right day to choose that, to do that test. Yep. Okay, but 2 or 3 days or a week goes by, and they're right back where they were at. That attitude swing has gone right back downhill. Well, now that it's contemporaneous, it's back and it's in front of you and it's happening in the now. Yep. And you're basing everything off of your observations, okay? And you don't, man, when we could get into some drug episodes. I mean, I'm starting to get fired up now. You got me, you said that, Luke, and I can feel me. I'm boiling over at this point. Look, I mean, it gets bad. Like, we will get companies that'll call us and they won't follow the procedures. They'll just do their own thing. And it's like, oh yeah, we found drugs in their truck. I'm like, okay, great, we're gonna do this. They're like, no, we already fired them. And I'm like, did you do the reasonable suspicion test? Nope, we just fired them. And I mean, I could tell just story after story of different things that I run into. And I'm like, y'all, there is a procedure. Like, you're going to fire him. I get it. Good for you. You could still fire him 10 minutes later. Let's just take care of the procedures first.
Yep.
So slow down, take a breath. But a lot of that is working with a drug and alcohol consortium like us at Front Range Compliance, who's going to support you. Like, call us. We're going to help you and make sure the right thing, because it's our goal is to keep the DOT out of your office, to keep you legal, keep you from, or help you reduce that risk so that you don't get sued. Because you make that bad decision, you fire this guy, well, he or she is not going to end up with a positive test on their record, and they're just going to turn around and get hired again by somebody else. And when they end up crashing, they're going to point the finger at you. And then next thing you know what I'm talking about, those faces on the billboards that don't want to name any names because I don't want to get in trouble with them. Lord knows they'll sue anything and everything. But that's what they do, is they're looking for those lawsuits. So protect yourself, reduce the risk of litigation, and trust me, y'all are running trucking companies. It's not if you're going to get sued, it's when, because they know that you got a big target on your back. So let's do what we can to reduce the risk. So cool. Anything else that you got going on with DOT University, Luke?
Nope, no more updates from me.
Okay, FMCSA Clearinghouse. I really wanted to talk about it since we were bringing up the reasonable suspicion. So I logged in just before this podcast. I was like, hey, you know what? We're going to go through and get the updated training or the statistics, because they usually update it once a month. And I've pulled the last report, and that's going to be through the end of 2025. So I've got the full history, but they haven't updated any more months since then. So I was like, well, we're well into quarter one. We should have those stats now to see, like, where are we at so far? Well, yep. FMCSA, get your stuff together. Like, come on, where's the stats? Where's the information? It's not like you got nothing else going on in this world. Of course, I'm kidding. But yeah, get us some stats so we can see where we're at and what we need to focus on as an industry. That's the whole reason you built that whole clearinghouse. So get that thing rocking and rolling. We need some statistics. Okay. I did have an interesting phone call today with an auditor at the FMCSA. I'm not going to name any names or name any companies or even locations, but I think the biggest thing that stood out, we were on the phone for quite a while. I've known this individual for quite some time. They were calling me in regards to another company that was getting confused with our company, and just had a conversation with them about the audits. And this person has also kind of let me know that they're displeased with the way things going. And I just asked him, I said, hey, what is going on with your audits? Because, something's got to give. Y'all just aren't cutting the mustard on this. And he literally, it was just like, thank you. I'm very happy to hear somebody from the industry say that. And here's the thing, like, if you've been through an audit, you might, not like that I am encouraging them to have better audits. Okay. But here's the thing. We all share the road with a bunch of turds out there, whether it's the people in the four-wheel cars or the people in the big trucks or all of those in between. There's a lot of really great companies, and we appreciate you all very, very much. But it only takes one of the bad ones to just go out there and be a knucklehead, and that stereotype gets carried across all of this industry. So we do need to clean up. And it seems like right now the FMCSA is just so laser focused on certain parts of this industry that the other part, it's just kind of running rampant right now. And as far as like audits and penalties go, I have literally watched a demise over the last few years, but it's gotten really bad as of recently, of the quality that these audits go through. Penalties, I mean, in order for these guys to put through a penalty, they have to do like a major case, like they're submitting a homicide at this point. The paperwork is just astronomical, which, okay, I can understand paperwork, and it's all just work, right? But there's some type of attitude or some type of change in the industry where, I don't know, maybe some individuals just don't want to do that much paperwork. So they're just not finding the violations. Like I have literally watched critical and acute violations they just go unrecognized.
Yep.
And I mean, that's one of the things that I do is, we do audits, we do assessments, which is just like a mini audit, more of just to kind of see, hey, look, this is where you need to go with your program. But I just see this huge like change where the auditors just aren't picking up on these violations. They're overlooking at them. And maybe it's a change of the quality of training. It's a change of focus. I don't know. There's a change in the air right now. The auditor let me know. He said that he would like to see these little focused reviews and all this other little sidebar stuff that they're doing. Like to see that just go away and get back to the actual full full-blown audits. I don't know what they're going to do. But overall, I would say the FMCSA is laser-focused on some stuff right now, but there's other stuff that's really slipping. And it's unfortunate because it does make our highways unsafer, and it makes it harder for all of us. The more knuckleheads we have that are out there, they're taking loads, they're taking you're changing your freight rates, they're causing insurance rates to go sky high, and here you are working so hard to be a good company, and they're just not being held accountable, and we should all be upset about that. That affects each and every one of us. So that kind of thing. So, all right, well, that's really kind of what's what and what's been going on in our world there, Mr. Redbeard. You brought forward a press release today to talk about, and I found it pretty interesting, and I find it kind of scary, and I think we as an industry really ought to be concerned. So this is a press release from a company called Aurora. They do have, I'm not going to be able to pronounce their last name here, and if I tried, y'all would just laugh at me. I'll say their first name was Rachel. They're the press contract, the head of partner and product comms at Aurora. So now, those of you from Colorado, this is not the city of Aurora. It's a company, Aurora, for autonomous truck fleets. It's Aurora Innovation Inc. is the particular company that we've got this press release from. This is from April 30th, so just a couple days ago. And I find it really interesting. They've been working with this company, this Aurora, this intelligence program that is dealing with the autonomous trucks. They've been working with this company, and I don't want to name names. We're just naming Aurora because it's their press release. But they've been working with some companies down in Texas and Phoenix, and they're basically running some autonomous trucks, in those certain areas. Well, they're expanding this now, and they're expanding it with this deal that they have announced to enable its. They're trying to get this final deal to aggressively scale its national network with 500 million driverless miles while establishing a multi-year revenue stream for Aurora valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, so that's like on page 1 of their press release, paragraph 1, that I read that from. And yeah, that's what I see this. This is a tech company, okay, that is getting into driving of commercial motor vehicles, driverlessly, of course, for 500 million, and it's going to make them millions and millions of dollars. Yep. I see that as not necessarily good for any of us that are in transportation and that type of thing. Like safety-wise, well, maybe if they drive slower and they stay in their lane and everything else, but I'm in this also for the people side of this. I meet some of the best people in this industry, and there's some absolutely phenomenal drivers out there. It's a great profession, and we appreciate everything that you guys do. But I just see this as a real move for the ultimate goal of driverless vehicles, and the good old days of being a truck driver are done. I don't see this anywhere. Like right now, I'm seeing this as truckload carriers. I don't see this, taking part of a lot of the vocational trucking and stuff like that. As of yet, we're years away from that kind of thing, but it's a step in that direction, and I think it's something we really, really need to watch it. So I kind of went through and I highlighted a couple quotes here. I'm just going to kind of read this first one that I went through and highlighted. It says the Aurora driver, so we're talking about the autonomous truck, says the Aurora driver will provide consistent 24/7 service to our customers, making an important growth lever for our business, okay? And that was from Richard Stockings, the CEO of Hirschbach Motor Lines, okay? It says, but autonomy isn't just a business move, it is a quality of life investment for our people. The Aurora driver will handle the lengthier, less desirable routes, providing our drivers with greater flexibility. It's a win-win. So there's basically that quote, I take that statement that says, hey, you know what? We got some routes that take longer to get there. So you know what? Instead of having drivers have to sleep in a sleeper berth, we can take that away from like an over-the-road driver. All those other businesses out there, and there's tons of stuff going on now with like brokers and some shady business on that side of things. But I think there's a lot of really good over-the-road drivers that they're selling their trucks left and right. And this is one that, hey, if I got an autonomous truck, I don't have to worry about hours of service. So I can keep that truck going 24/7. Who needs a driver? So I think, again, like I said, it's the way of the future, I guess. Now, this quote goes on. It says, when early adopters see the benefit of the Aurora Driver deliveries for their business and their drivers, they don't just stay the course, they scale quickly. Okay, that was another quote, different person. This one's from somebody from Aurora. So that, I mean, again, they're just really pushing this whole this technology for driving, and it kind of goes down the next part of this document. It's talking about preparing for the unprecedented commercial scale. And it says the leader is moving refrigerated freight expressed through its plan in the non-binding MOU to purchase 500 Aurora Driver powered trucks with deliveries. And this is going to be beginning in 2027. So they're gearing up to do this whole thing. And then they kind of go through and they highlight their own parts of this, talking about, hey, this is what it's going to do for people and everything else. And I see two people. I see the motor carrier coming out ahead because they don't have to pay wages.
Yep.
That's less payroll taxes. That's less, and I see a technology company coming out ahead in this deal. Good for the people. It's going to be good for the end consumer, I guess, because they're going to be able to make deliveries 24/7. But, if they're driving 24/7, 500 driverless miles, or 500 million driverless miles is the goal. And I mean, this is just an upscale from one of their big things that they've already done in town in Texas. I don't see this as good news. I'm quite fearful from it. I'm not necessarily a great big huge fan of the AI tech that's out there. I have dealt with too many AI lawyers, right? You've heard me on some of those phone calls when been involved in some of the situations where we got drivers threatening us, because they didn't like the way drug and alcohol testing went, and you can tell their letter is 100%, produced from AI tech, and it's just like, man, I will stand and argue toe to toe with anybody on DOT rules and regulations any day, win, lose, or draw. I just find it fascinating. So, when drivers do it and they're using AI technology, I just giggle about it. It's comical, but I'm seeing how advanced AI is getting, and it really is. It's working a lot of people out of business, and it's dumbing us down. Yep. When all I got to do is type a catchphrase in, and then all I got to just auto repeat the information. I don't need to know anything. Nope. I just have to be a repeater of information. And I think that's terrifying. I love the fact that my brain is like this walking encyclopedia of DOT laws. I cannot stand that, that AI is replacing that for people, and they're trusting it with no knowledge, no experience, just trusting it. And I've walked through the AI doors. I've played with AI, and there's been a lot of things that I'm like, wow, it's doing a pretty good job. But there's also some stuff that I'm like, yeah, that's not a real good way to interpret what those laws mean. So you got to be very, very careful with that. So perfect. Okay, the last thing on the Truck Around and Find Out podcast today that I really wanted to talk about was I got a letter from the FMCSA. Anytime you get a letter from the federal government, I'm always like, ooh, what's going on with that one? At least it wasn't from the IRS. Okay. Never liked those letters. Okay. So with this one was dated on April 16th. It just says it's a preparer letter, and this is going to be going out for anybody with a U.S. DOT number. So you probably have received this letter. If you haven't and you haven't looked at it, or you just tossed it away, you thought it was junk mail, just be prepared. It says prepare for MOTUS, MOTUS, okay, feds and their acronyms. That is an update to their FMCSA portal system for the U.S. DOT registration system. So the big update, it's going live as far as the portal by May 14th, 2026. So between then and now, if you have not been using your portal, if you don't have it set up, which everybody with a CDL driver should have portal, because you have to use portal to get into your drug and alcohol clearinghouse for all that stuff. If you're not doing drug and alcohol clearinghouse, give us a call. We'll give you help. It's a lot. But for years, I used to tell people all the time, look, portal's worthless. There's nothing there for you. Unless you're getting a lot of on-road performance, a lot of inspections, some crashes, there really wasn't any need to really use portal. Like the feds were pushing. but nobody was really using it because it didn't really tie to anything. You could access everything from afar. You could log into data queues by going to data queues. Well, then they kind of brought data queues and made that part of Portal, and then they have the clearinghouse. Now they've got the MCS 150 updates as part of that. So get your Portal updated. Okay, you do not share your FMCSA PIN. Like if it's a company that you're working with, like us, you got a service agreement with us. We still very rarely use your FMCSA PIN number. So when you're taking that number, which is it's 8 digits, it's made up of alpha and numerical figures, and you're giving that to third parties, okay, you're going to get your DOT number stolen and hijacked. So the whole purpose of Modus is to help bring all this data together and help also try to secure this. The fraud in US DOT is absolutely rampant. So what they're recommending is basically 4 points. They want to make sure that you ensure your Portal account is active, make sure you've been logging into it, make sure you have access to it. Okay. Second, you need to note that the Portal accounts, they do get disabled after 90 days and they go into archive after 12 months of inactivity. So just make sure you got your Portal account up and running. If you have not, then you have to contact the FMCSA, and good luck dialing that phone number. You're going to deal with somebody that's reading a script, and if you don't use the right words, they're not going to get you the right answers. This is going to be a website, though, so it's fmcsa.dot.gov/registration/ask-FMCSA. That's actually a pretty cool little link because that'll take you to like an email chat bot, and you can write in and have your account unlocked, so you can use that as an option. It's better than waiting on hold for 6 hours. True. And then the next one says in the Portal, ensure your company information, your operation classification, your contact, and individual authorized access. Everything is all set up and that type of thing. Okay, and then lastly, you can make your updates through the registration portal through for your MCS 150. Okay, you can do all of that directly through your FMCSA portal. So just make sure you get your portal set up, get ready for the switch over, because if it's active, might have to start over, get it if it gets lost, that kind of thing. So just to make sure it's good and active. So anyways, so speaking about Portal, Truck Around and Find Out podcast, I TAFO, we recently worked on a data queue. So we got a crash data queue, and this was through one of my clients that went through a safety audit. I was talking with the company, of course, prior to the audit. This is a company I worked with years and years and years ago. They went out of business during COVID. Well, they got fired back up. They got a phone call from them about 4 months ago. They said, "Oh, hey, we're operational again, and we'd like to see you get some help from you." So got some help. We went in and talked to them. Well, they got selected for their new entrant audit. Okay. And during that whole audit, my preparations going in, talking to them about stuff, they had no crashes. They didn't tell me about a crash. Well, they didn't tell me about this crash due to the situation of this crash. And then, of course, sitting in the audit, the DOT officer says, "Oh, well, what about this crash?" And I'm sitting there with like a bewildered look on my face, like, "What do you mean crash? I don't know about anything of a crash." And he said, "Well, yes, they do have a crash." And the company's like, "Oh, we didn't tell you about it because it was, a tire. A vehicle that was going out of control, like went through a median, lost a tire. The tire was then debris, rolled and hit their vehicle and caused a bunch of damage." Well, the crash report listed them as vehicle number 2, which in turn landed on their CSA profile, right? Now, my bad. When I met with them, I should have looked at their CSA profile. There's some reasons why I didn't. That's because I was trusting this company to tell me everything they had going on. And I don't really do a whole lot for this company. They're really good at like picking my brain, but not really good at using us, that kind of thing. So I was really trying to not get overly too involved. And if you're listening to me today, all the love in the world, no disrespect. You guys run a good program. But with that being said, so they kind of surprised me with this crash that they didn't bother to tell me about. So we started doing the data queue. We did the whole, because if you go through the prevention or it's the crash determination preventability program for data queues. It's got a whole bunch of different examples. One of those examples is debris or a tire comes off of a vehicle and hits you. You have no contact with the vehicle. You just got hit by a flying tire, right? That kind of thing. So we did the data queue. Luke and I, and Nicole, God love her. She does so much work for me. There's a lot of this stuff. She logs into it and just types in what I tell her to type in. Sometimes she just does them all on her own. So I haven't actually logged into data queues in a while and done one myself. So I was like, well, I'm going to work with Luke because I'm showing him how to do this because he's trying to take over more responsibilities within front range compliance. So we sat down and did it, and we were denied. Okay, well, what happened was I sent the data queue through the state. I didn't click one of the right buttons, so I had to redo it to the FMCSA. But so that is in, it's getting processed. But in between then, as I walked in today, you told me we got a new data queue request, and if I understand, it's a tire.
It's not a tire.
It's not a tire.
It is not a tire.
Well, I could have swore I heard you tell me it was a tire.
No, I said couch.
A couch? Oh, it was a couch came off the vehicle.
So,
but it was debris.
No.
Okay, what happened?
Gosh. Well, it doesn't fall into the preventability guide because they didn't strike the debris. The debris was just what caused the accident in the first place. So there was a truck. I think it was a 2-lane highway that they were in. And there was a truck that had some pretty bad cargo securement, and a couch came flying off the back of their trailer. And there was an SUV sedan style vehicle that was following this truck when the couch came off of it. So, of course, they slam on their brakes because they don't want to hit the tire. And then the truck that was following behind this SUV couldn't get stopped in time and ended up hitting this SUV.
Definitely not a couch.
So definitely not a tire.
Not a couch or a tire. Okay, debris, yes. So I get this. So you're saying somebody lost their debris, which in turn caused traffic to turn into a mess, and the CMV hit a car that was trying to avoid the couch.
Yep.
Not preventable.
Not preventable.
I mean, you still have to control your vehicle. If the truck was hit by the couch or hit the couch that flew off in front of this, we probably could articulate that. We could pull that off your DOT, your safety measurement. But like you were saying, I think you nailed that one for sure, Luke. The car that hit the couch, he wouldn't have to show that on his DOT profile if it was a CMV. But unfortunately, the driver who hit the car, who hit the couch, probably should have avoided hitting the car.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was
unfortunately
just a bad case of following too close,
Wow.
I mean, not enough distance to get that truck stopped in time. So unfortunately, it is it doesn't fall into the category of non-preventable.
Not gonna. Boy, talk about truck around and find out on that one.
That's a sad one.
Dang it. Well, I think we all know. You're out there, you're driving. Drivers, first off, of the smaller cars, that sometimes back in my trooper days, you'd pull them over and they were CDL holders. Like, what are you doing? But drivers do not respect the space around a CMV.
No,
so you've got to give them the room. That the reason they've got a big following distance is because they need that space to stop. Like Keith mentioned, a week or two ago, talking about that truck when they get, I think it was when Lonnie was here, when that thing gets up about 75, it like doubles the stopping distance. It's huge, and cars just don't realize that.
No,
so,
they don't.
And unfortunately, sometimes the drivers of those trucks, I think they forget too.
Yep.
And it's like, the training I was doing this morning, I was talking to them, after I showed them our little crash videos, our little sequence that we do in the beginning, get them interested in the training. I always do my little spiel, and I was talking about that, and I said, sometimes the knucklehead is the driver of the CMV. Y'all get in there and you have that temporary brain cramp where you forget that you're driving a big truck and you're driving it mistakenly like you'd be driving your personally owned vehicles, and they don't maneuver the same. We're all human. We make those mistakes. But hey, with that being said, thank you for what you do. We really appreciate you commercial motor vehicle drivers and all the work that you do. It's your work. Remember, if I bought it, you brought it. So that's a good thing to remember. So thank you for what you do. You're moving America forward. Keep our shiny side up. Stay safe out there. And thanks for listening.